So I'm just kind of all over the place. I feel like I'm talking about, spirituality and God, because that's first and foremost for me. Like, he saved my life. I literally am just so thankful, and I'm going to talk about him every single day. But I did want to just kind of start talking about more things that, I've had like an experience that most people haven't professionally. I was in the car business for 12 years. There's not a lot of women in the car business. I was always like the only one. I was in corporate automotive. District manager slash dealer ops manager for 10 of those years, marketing manager for the other 2 of those years, marketing advertising, at both Chevy and Nissan. And now I own my own company and I do a little bit of everything, primarily coaching women, business owners, founders, just in business. And because I love makeup, because I love fashion, I also offer fashion, makeup tips, tricks, tutorials, recommendations, all those things. But something else, I don't charge for any of that, of course. And then the last thing is, again, like, there's not a lot of women in the car business, and definitely not a lot that were like at that level that I was at on the corporate side and kind of like overseeing things. So I do offer a lot of just like tips on buying cars, because I know a lot of people just don't know, and I've seen so much just like wrong information online, and I'm like, I gotta stop this, I gotta like tell y'all the truth, because y'all are leading people astray. So I haven't made any videos, I don't think, about talking about like car stuff, but I will start like sprinkling a little of that in. I do have it on my website. I have a whole page dedicated to it. But what I want to talk about first is leasing, because there's so much wrong information about car leasing. People hate car leasing. I'm like, you poor thing have like been misinformed your whole life and led astray. I love leasing. I really only lease if I get a new car because it makes sense. And I switch cars pretty often. I get kind of bored and I like to just switch cars. So leasing is not for everybody, but there's so much just like wrong information about car leasing that you probably haven't considered it, and you probably should consider it. So if you were somebody who like swaps out cars before you finish paying off one car, you should probably consider leasing because that's literally like what you're avoiding. So with leasing, you have a car for, a predetermined amount of time, usually 2 to 3 years. People always think like, oh my gosh, I drive way too much for leasing. No, the average person drives around like 14,000 miles a year. The average, like a standard lease contract, is 15,000 miles a year. But you can, like, all you have to do is calculate how often you drive or how many miles you drive in a week, multiply that out and look at what that is in a year. How many miles do you drive in a month, and multiply that by 12, and you'll have like your, annual mileage, and you can literally make your lease contract with however many miles you need. And worst case scenario, if you go over your miles when the lease is up, like, there are ways around it. Like, you can get excess wear and tear. That includes excess mileage, like as a contract when you do your lease, and that will cover like overage for your miles up to a certain point, and they charge like 20 cents or so per mile if you go over. But worst case scenario, you can buy your car at the end of your lease, like if you went some astronomical number of miles over. And that's what most people don't know, is that like at the end of your lease, you have the option to buy your car always. Like, if you love this car and you want to buy it, then you can just buy it outright. And so most people think like that's not an option. It is. So let me tell you why leasing just makes sense. So with cars, it's depreciating. Like, as soon as you drive that car off the lot, it is losing value, and rapidly. So throwing a bunch of money into a depreciating asset is not necessarily the smartest financial move to make. So for instance, like EVs, they have dropped in value the most. Like, I've had a Tesla that lost tons of money within a few months, tons of money of its value within a few months. Leasing is kind of like the security that you're not going to lose a lot of money. So with the lease, you're basically just paying for the portion of the car that you use. So let's say that the sticker of a car that you're getting is $40,000. And so in a lease, the bank is basically saying, okay, we think in the end of 3 years, if you drive this car 15,000 miles a year, we think in 3 years this car is going to be worth $20,000. So on a $40,000 car, over 3 years, you're paying that $20,000. And then at the end, the bank, takes the car, they own the car, and they have this car that's now worth $20,000. Here's the thing. There is no way to know what your car is going to be worth in 3 years. Anything can happen that can alter the value of your car. So for instance, I talked about EVs because they drop value the most, because a lot of car manufacturers, I worked for Chevy, and I was actually an EV marketing manager for Chevy, and we placed a huge bet on EV, that electric vehicles would really take off and we'd sell a whole lot, and that did not happen, which meant that there's a whole lot of electric vehicles out there, not a lot of people buying them. So in 3 years, your electric car is worth not a lot of money, just because it's simple supply and demand. If there's a lot of them out there and nobody's really buying them, then they're not very valuable. Whereas conversely, the opposite can be true. And I've seen that with Tahoes and Suburbans. When I was at Chevy, there was a time when I had a Tahoe lease and they were worth more. There was a shortage in Tahoe production or something. So Tahoes were worth way more than what the leasing company, what they thought it was going to be worth at the end of the lease. And the cool thing is you can buy your car and they can't mess the price up. So let's say we think that this car is going to be worth $20,000. It's really worth $30,000 at the end of your lease. If you are like, no, I want to buy this car, you buy it for the $20,000. You don't have to pay $30,000, which is the market price for this car right now. If you were to go to a lot, you would be paying $30,000 at a dealership for this car. But since you already got into this lease 3 years ago, you're only paying the $20,000. So that's why I said it's like a security, because you're not assuming the risk of the depreciation of that car. The bank is assuming the risk, because if the bank shot that number way too high and it's worth less than what they thought, you get to walk away. You didn't just lose an extra $10,000. The bank just lost an extra $10,000. But again, if the opposite is true, where it's worth way more than what you thought it was going to be worth, okay, you can buy that car and you can turn around and sell it. I've seen people literally buy their lease out, turn around, sell it to the dealership, pocket $10,000, because they're not taking that risk. So that's why I love leasing. And like I said, if you're somebody who likes to trade in your cars before you pay it off, you have negative equity. Negative equity is the difference between what your car is worth and how much you owe on it. So let's say you owe $5,000 more than what your car is worth. That $5,000, either you got to come up with that cash, give the dealership a check, or they're going to roll that $5,000 into your next car loan. So you're going to be paying what you're paying for the car plus $5,000 from your previous car, and you're just going to keep doing that cycle. And that's what I love about leasing, again, because it's okay, I have this car for 3 years. I know that I get bored with cars. I was in the car business, so I switched cars often. So I can't keep a car for 10 years. I don't see me doing it. I know that I'm gonna get bored, and I know I'm gonna want a new car in a couple of years. So instead of taking that bet of hey, is this gonna be worth more than what I owe? Maybe not, and I might have to roll that extra money. I know in 2 years, 3 years, my lease is up, I'm done. I get to walk away. Whatever it's worth, the bank can figure it out. And if it's worth way more, I can buy it and sell it and pocket some extra cash. So that's what I love about leasing. If you are military, you should absolutely be leasing. Absolutely be leasing. So there is something called the Service Members Civil Relief Act. And with that act, let's say you get PCS orders, you got to go to Germany. You can just turn your lease in and walk away. Now, let's say you own a car. You just bought a car 6 months ago, so that thing is totally upside down. You owe way more than what that car is worth. You got to figure out a way to get rid of that car. And you're going to lose money. But in a lease, guess what? You just leased it 6 months ago. You get your orders, show your orders to the dealership, drop your car off, you're done. That's it. So if you're military, please please consider leasing. And then in some states, not all, but in some states, the amount that you were taxed on your lease is way less, because instead of taxing you on the full like sticker price of the car, some states only tax you on like the amount of your lease payment. So let's say, again, that example, instead of paying tax on a $40,000 car, you're only paying tax on a $20,000. So you're saving money there. So just a lot of like great things to know about leasing. And a lot of people just don't know. But again, I love it because I just feel like I'm taking the risk away from myself and putting it on the bank. And again, let's say that that car ends up being worth way more than what I thought. Okay, cool. Like, I still win. I can still buy that car. And if it's worth way less, then I'm gone. Bank, y'all can figure it out. I'm sorry. And then also there's often just like really good like payments on leases. Like, you can get more car for your money on a lease typically, because again, like, just think about it, paying $40,000 versus $20,000. Like, clearly in most cases your payments are going to be considerably less than if you were to finance it. So just something to think about. There's just so much wrong information in the lease, and I just think that it makes sense to at least consider it, especially because, again, financially speaking, I would rather not like own depreciating assets. I would rather like lease depreciating assets, which cars are. So just think about it. But I do have more information about leasing, like all the terms to know, like what's the residual value, what are all the things, like how exactly is a lease calculated. And if you wanted me to make a video on that, I absolutely could. But again, I feel bad because so many people don't know and think that leasing is totally like different than what it is. But it's really the smart way to get a car financially. So hope this helps. If you start leasing your cars instead of buying them, did you realize that you don't have to worry about big repair bills anymore? So I made a video about why you should lease a few days ago, and I forgot one of the biggest reasons that you should consider leasing is that you don't have to worry about big car repair bills anymore. Leases are 1, 2, or 3 years. I think all car companies at this point, their bumper to bumper warranty is 3 years, if not more, which means that any big repairs that you have, which I would hope that, you know, a 2-year-old, 3-year-old car doesn't have a big repair bill, but if it does, guess what? It's covered under warranty. So if you're getting new cars every 2 or 3 years under lease, you don't have to pay any repair bills. You don't have to worry about it. So that's another huge benefit of leasing. In my other video, I give you, a list of reasons why, and I don't want to rehash them. I was in the car business for 12 years. I only lease. It makes sense. You get a lot more car for your money. In my other video, I showed an example of a $53,000 Chevy truck that has a lease where a 2-year lease where all your payments in total equal like $16,000, $9,000 if you're already leasing a Chevy. So you get way more car for your money. Like I said, you don't have to worry about repair bills. You're getting new cars every 2, 3 years. You don't have to worry about going to trade in a car and owing more on the car than what it's worth, much less, heaven forbid, you have a big repair that you have to try to figure out before you can trade it in, or the dealership's going to give you like no money for your car because it has this huge repair that's needed. So just one thing that I had forgotten when I made that video, you can watch the other video if you wanted to like know more about leasing, but it's a really good alternative. And quite honestly, most people in the car business that I know, they lease just like me. You get way more car for your money. You save so much money. It makes so much sense. So definitely think about it.